this meeting going here. Thanks everybody for being at the 5th meeting of the Appropriations and Revenue Committee. Ask all members to please take your seats. Madam Secretary, call the roll.
Senator Chambers Armstrong. Senator Boswell.
Here.
Senator Funky Frohmeyer.
Present.
Senator Givens. Senator Maiden.
Here.
Senator Neal. Senator Nunn.
Here.
Senator Rawlings.
Here.
Senator Richardson.
Here.
Senator Webb. Senator Mays Bledsoe.
Here.
Chair McDaniel.
Here. I know there is a wreck on 64. We had some members get tied up behind, so they sent their apologies in advance. But we do have a quorum and duly constituted to conduct business, which is what we will do. Is it 11 or 41? I can't. 41. Okay, very good. All right, so I'm going to make one blanket statement right now, as there obviously are some committee subs which were distributed last night. Thanks to each of the sponsors. I worked on most of them on these various subs and some other miscellaneous cleanups to make them as good as I think as possible. So at this time, I'd like to have Senator Steve Meredith come up and talk about Senate Bill 11. And there is a committee sub that was distributed last night. It's also in the members' packets. At this time, I'll entertain a motion on the sub. By Senator Richardson. Do I have a second? Senator, who was that? Maiden. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Welcome, sir. If you guys, before you speak, please identify yourself for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Steve Meredith, State Senator for the 5th District.
And I'm Gracie Kelly with the Kentucky League of Cities.
Billy Phelps, Mayor, City of Morgantown.
Welcome.
Appreciate the opportunity to present this bill before committee. We presented it in BMAP several weeks ago, passed unanimously out of that committee. And what this is attempting to do is address kind of an issue that's specific to rural Kentucky. The mayor here, this was his idea to do this. He received a substantial grant from FEMA to build a community storm shelter, which is certainly appreciated and wonderful. But it doesn't recognize the difficulty it presents for rural residents who have to travel great distances to get to a storm shelter. So it was his idea, why can't we take the same amount of money and incentivize people to build personal storm shelters on a matching grant type program, $10,000 total, $5,000 contribution, $5,000 matching grant, and we could actually build 40 storm shelters, neighborhood storm shelters, and under the conditions of this program, you'd have to open it up to your neighbors and your friends and relatives. So it's just not your personal storm shelter. It's a neighborhood storm shelter. And it's very straightforward. We're seeing an increase in tornado activity throughout Kentucky. It seems like Tornado Alley has shifted south. It's actually a kind of Dixie, a tornado alley now. And we're going to see more of this in the future. But this is an attempt to address the peculiarity of rural communities because we have to travel such long distances. In my home county, literally, it could take 30 to 45 minutes to get to a storm shelter when we have inclement weather. So this is an attempt to address that peculiarity of rural Kentucky.
Good deal. Gracie, we know the league's for it. You don't need to say anything, but thanks for being here. Mayor, you have anything to say?
Yes, sir. I'd like to talk about how it actually affects.
Just keep it about 2-3 minutes, please, sir.
Yes, sir.
We appreciate
how it
you.
really affects us rural communities across the state. 75% roughly of Kentucky is rural, and our city could have built a large storm shelter. But I realize my county, once again, as the senator said, takes about 45 minutes to get across it. So none of us here is going to get in our car in the middle of a storm and drive 2 miles to get into a storm shelter. You just aren't going to do it. But if you have one that your neighbor has or in your surrounding subdivision, you would go to it and get in a shelter. So it's our hope that you'd understand that this is just to help all the people in our state, because there's so many in my county and the counties around me that do not have access to getting in a safe space if a storm comes.
Very well. Thanks for the time. Most important question is, if your in-laws show up and you don't like them, do you have to let them in?
We don't have to put that in the bill.
All right. Very good. All right. Do I have a motion for Senator Maiden, second for Senator Mays Bledsoe? Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Chambers Armstrong. Senator Boswell. Senator Funky Frommeyer. Senator Givens. Senator Maiden. Senator Mays Bledsoe. Senator Neal. Senator Nunn. Senator Rawlings.
Aye.
Senator Richardson. Senator Webb. Chair McDaniel.
Aye. Is it 10?
It's 11.
11 aye votes, no nay votes. Measure passes. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members of the committee. Appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. All right, next up, Senate Bill 41, Senator Boswell. And we do have some people signed up to speak in opposition to this bill. So, Senator, I'm going to ask you if you'd keep your testimony at about 5 minutes, and then we will call the other folks up and give them 5 as well. If you identify yourself for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Gary Boswell, 8th District. Today I'm here to present Senate Bill 41, which is an ad valorem tax bill. This bill does not require a constitutional amendment. Over the years, property taxes have skyrocketed. House Bill 44 was put into place in 1979, and it was a great bill. And it said it required that when property taxes were raised by a taxing entity over 4%, it would be subject to a recall petition. As we all know, well, if you've ever done one, I've done two. Recall petition process is very difficult. This bill requires that when the taxing entity raises taxes over 4%, it must be put on the ballot. This bill is the very same bill that I presented last year, with one exception. I took out the nickel tax, because the nickel tax is something that the legislature over the years has actually supported, and so that portion has been taken off. If the taxing entity raises tax over 4%, and it does go on the ballot, and they lose, it does return the tax rate to the compensating rate. One thing that's a little different from last year that I would like to make mention of, that is Kentucky Farm Bureau supports this measure. I'm not sure if anybody is here from Farm Bureau this morning, but if you look at their legislative priority list, it just came out. This bill specifically listed here in their priority list. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I think that it's fairly simple.
You finished in under 5. You earned the appreciation of the committee. All right. Any questions for Senator Boswell? All right, sir. If you'd kind of just hang tight there. We have Ms. Barry Lee and Dr. Carrie Ballinger testify in opposition to this bill. If you guys would come up. Senator Boswell, would you just kind of sit back there while they come up? Thank you. Guys, same deal. Please identify yourselves for the record, and I'll give you 5 minutes for your testimony. Thank
Good
you.
morning. I'm Dr. Carrie Ballinger. I'm the superintendent of Rockcastle County Schools.
And I'm Barry Lee, superintendent for Casey County Schools.
Thank you for having us this morning. As superintendents, I think it's important for us to start out by saying that we completely support transparency and accountability. I mean, we are without a doubt responsible to our communities. However, Kentucky already has a citizen-driven petition process that allows voters to recall an election on local tax increases. Senate Bill 41, however, replaces this process with an automatic mandate, and this mandate weakens our local control, it increases costs to school districts, and it also creates an unnecessary fiscal instability. So first, under current law, voters have the option to petition for a recall if they object to this tax increase. Senate Bill 41 eliminates that, and it instead requires a referendum whenever the revenue exceeds 4% of the compensating rate. It also suspends the levy pending the election. This means that election must occur even if the community is in favor of this tax increase. If no petition is filed under the current law, That's evidence of community support, and Senate Bill 41 disregards this. Also, if voters reject the tax rate under Senate Bill 41, the rate automatically goes back to the compensating rate. This does not allow school districts to account for inflation, does not reflect rising insurance costs, and does not reflect enrollment growth that so many districts are experiencing. This creates a significant fiscal risk for districts, and it freezes school districts at prior year purchasing power while costs continue to rise. Since 2021, construction costs for school districts have risen over 30%. Transportation costs are increasing. For my school district in Rockcastle County in 2021, a school bus cost $97,000. In 2025, it cost $155,000. Our insurance cost, in reference to liability and property insurance, 2020 it was $168,000 in my district. This past year it was close to $500,000. Senate Bill 41 restricts a local district's ability to manage these rising costs at the local level. So it hamstrings us to address that locally.
There's also some hidden costs within Senate Bill 41 that we want to talk about today. If it were to require a special election, that's an additional $30,000 to $50,000 that would be put on the backs of local school districts. It creates these election costs even when there's no meaningful need for an election. It's an automatic with Senate Bill 41. There's no questions asked. You go above the 4%, you're mandated to have that election or special election. And again, that additional cost, $30,000 to $40,000, that can pay for an instructional assistant. That can pay for the salary of a school teacher. So the impact, there is a financial burden here if Senate Bill 41 continues to move forward. The bill makes it more expensive just to maintain when it comes to school funding. It also causes some instability in planning, as Dr. Ballinger mentioned. Senate Bill 41 requires suspension of the levy until after the election. If that were to be the case, then we have budget uncertainties. It could be up to 4 months before we find a stable budget and balances that we can look forward to providing for our students and their employees. It delays in contracts, capital planning, and revenue unpredictability. School districts build budgets months in advance, and this introduces unnecessary issues when it comes to fiscal planning. This also undermines state and local partnership. Strong public schools rely on a partnership between local communities and state. Our board members, they live in our community. They send their children to our schools, and they answer directly to the voters. Senate Bill 41 replaces local discretion with a one-size-fits-all formula that it's automatic and there's no option on top of the cost, and then also undermining the local voters or the board members. So this is not increased accountability, it's actually reduced local government. So in closing, local boards already operate transparently and directly accountable to voters. Kentucky's current petition process gives citizens the power to force an election if they disagree. Senate Bill 41 does not fix this. It adds cost, it creates instability, and it restricts responsible local decision making. We respectfully urge a no vote on Senate Bill 41 to protect local governance and fiscal responsibility for our school districts. Thank you, Chair.
Man, right on time. Thank you guys very much for that. Senator Boswell, is there anything from their testimony that you would want to rebut? I'll give you about 2 minutes if you do. Guys, if you would please let him have the table. Thank you. Like I say, 2 minutes at the most for rebuttal here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It won't take that long. So, there's a very simple answer to this whole situation. Don't raise property taxes over 4%. What, of all the people, we're on A&R here, of all the people that are coming to the state, to the A&R committee this year asking for additional funds, very few of them are going to expect to get 4%. 4% a year is a fairly significant amount of money that you're already allowed without having to be subject to the recall petition. There's a simple answer to this. Just don't raise property taxes over 4%. What happens is a lot of times we're finding that across the state they will raise it, say, 6% or just slightly above that. And the citizens, it's a very difficult and complicated process to have to do this. Why should this be put on the taxpayers to have to go out and walk door to door to get petitions? Just don't raise it over 4%. Everybody will be happy.
Thank you,
That's
Senator. All right, just stay there for me. Any questions from the committee? Motion from Senator Richardson. Do I have a second? Second from Senator Nunn. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Chambers Armstrong. Senator Boswell.
Aye.
Senator Funky Fromeyer. Senator Gibbons. Senator Maiden.
I'd like to explain my vote, Mr. Chairman.
Cast your vote and explain, sir.
I'm going to be an aye today, Mr. Chairman, and I am 100% a pro-public school supporter. My wife's a retired teacher. I've got an aunt that's a school board member. I could go on and on. Daughter and son-in-law's into public school. But we are getting inundated with calls about taxes. And I know the schools, I see your all's additional charges, and I do understand that. And as we are working through this budget process of this HB 500, we've really dove into it and really seen it, the cost. But so we've got our hands full with that, and you know, I don't know that most people know that education gets about 65% of our state budget before we ever get started. So I don't oppose raising taxes, even though when I get my tax bill, it's 2/3 of my tax bill. You know, it's more than what the county and the libraries and everybody else gets. So I don't know what the answer is to your all's future funding, but there is some real concerns of the nickels and stuff that are being passed on to the residents. So that I just wanted you to know I am very much a public school supporter, but we do have to start watching the way these taxes are passed on to the residents in those counties. Thank you.
Senator Mays Bledsoe.
Vote and explain, please.
Cast your vote and explain, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to give an aye vote today in committee, but I think the concerns that have been raised are valid, and they need to have some significant conversation before this moves forward. Thank you.
Senator Neal.
I respectfully vote no on that. I want to explain, Mr. Chairman.
You've already cast your vote, sir, so go ahead and explain.
Yeah, I'm very concerned about the arbitrariness of the automatic piece. We got a piece that's in place that works, at least it appears to work from every aspect that I understand in my research on it. And I'm concerned that it also, I think, weakens local control, actually. And I really am a strong supporter of local control, and I think it's adequate the way it's structured. So I'm going to vote no this time.
Senator Nunn. Senator Rawlings.
Aye.
Senator Richardson. Senator Webb. Chair McDaniel.
And cast an aye vote and explain. You know, when we sit in these seats down here, we hear from a variety of different types of constituents. And there's really about 4 different types of constituents we hear from. The first are people that are just straight up advocates for an issue. And a lot of those people, they follow government for a variety of reasons, whether they're interested in, you know, gun rights or parents' rights or First Amendment rights or whatever. Then we have folks who largely depend on government for some kind of a regular direct appropriation that they want us to do, and people that advocate for very specific things. And then there are the people that reach out to us regarding our obligations, and our obligations include public education. They include criminal justice system. They include foster and adoptive services. And then you have what I think of as your average person who doesn't really engage with us very much. And frankly, their main engagement with their government is once a year when that card shows up in the mailbox. And when it does, they engage with us. And if there is one thing that I routinely hear from those folks, it's even though you tell me my rate is going down, my dollars are going up. And that frustration from that average constituent is probably more overwhelming in the past couple of years. And frankly, it's overwhelming due to their property tax bill. And those folks, you know, this bill, what it really does is it changes the onus. It changes the onus from the average person who only gets engaged when their tax bill shows up, and they have to prove that whatever the local taxing district is doesn't need it, to the local taxing district who will then have to prove that they do need it. And so it's merely a shift in responsibility for that. I will say that this is hands down for the average constituent, this is the number one contact that I receive. Nothing else is even close. I do think this is a good measure. I do think that these folks raise valid concerns, but I think those can be planned and overcome, and in the need for excess money communicated to the community. With 7 aye votes, 3 no votes, 1 pass vote, the measure passes with favorable expression. Thank you, Senator. Next up, Senate Bill 59. Senator Rawlings, if you take the table, please, sir. While he is taking the table, there is a committee substitute on this bill as well. I will entertain a motion on the committee sub. From Senator Nunn. Second from Senator Maiden. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, like sign. The ayes have it. Sub's adopted. Please identify yourself for the record and proceed, sir.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. Steve Rawlings, Senate District 11. So this bill involves our current statute, 65.013. KRS 65.013 requires tax dollars not to be used to advocate for or against a public question on the ballot. But during the election season of 2024, many, if not all of us, witnessed and heard about school officials, including superintendents at official meetings, advocate against ballot issue 2. We saw newspaper articles, social media, such as Facebook posts, advocating against the ballot measure. Kentucky Revised Statute 65.013 is clear in its intent. Public resources, local, state, and federal tax dollars must not be used to advocate for or against any public question appearing on the ballot, including proposed constitutional amendments. This law protects the integrity of our democratic process by ensuring that taxpayer funds are used for public service, not political influence. However, while the statute establishes this important prohibition, it currently lacks any enforcement mechanism. In other words, even when public officials or entities use tax dollars in violation of this law, there are no meaningful consequences. This gap has already been tested in practice. School authorities and other public bodies have engaged in advocacy using taxpayer-funded resources despite the clear statutory language. Because there are no penalties, the statute has little deterrent effect. This proposed provision to include criminal penalties is not about punishing honest mistakes. It is about assuring accountability and deterrence. When public institutions knowingly misuse tax dollars to influence voters, they undermine both public trust and the fairness of the electoral process. Adding enforceable penalties provides a necessary safeguard and one that upholds the rule of law and reinforces that no one, not even government entities, is above it. This amendment strengthens existing law by giving it real meaning. It is to ensure that tax dollars are used only for their intended purposes, such as public service, education, and infrastructure, not political persuasion. In short, this proposal closes a loophole that has allowed violations to go unchecked. It takes a rule with no teeth, and it establishes clear, fair, and enforceable standards that protect both taxpayers and the integrity of Kentucky's elections. I respectfully urge the committee to support the inclusion of criminal penalties in Section 65.013 to ensure full compliance and accountability under Kentucky law. Thank you for this opportunity to present this, Chairman and committee, this needed guideline and enforcement mechanism.
Thank you, Senator. And to be clear, in your sub, we removed the volunteer references from there. We did make the make an exception so that KET could host issues debates so long as equal time was given to both sides.
Correct.
Of an issue. And then also clarified that public employees on their own time using their own resources could not be prohibited from working on these issues.
Exactly. Yes.
Motion from Senator Maiden. Do I have a second from, was that Senator Boswell? Senator Boswell. Madam Secretary, please call the roll. Oh, hang tight. I apologize. Senator Webb, I just saw that. Senator Webb has a question.
That's okay.
Oh, and Senator Funky Fromeyer, you're next.
I
Then.
have a question. You referenced op-eds in your preface to the bill. I would just ask, just because someone's getting paid with state dollars, would that prohibit them from exercising the First Amendment resourceful opinion or expertise on the matter?
They can speak on their own time if it is truly their own time, and I think it would be a high burden of proof probably to prosecute them for criminal offense. I think in most instances there wouldn't be a problem. In northern Kentucky, there was an article in Lincoln KY and other publications. It had 11 superintendents speak out against the this amendment, and I think that was over the line. I think that's an example where they actually were in violation of this statute. But under normal circumstances, sure, if they were at church or out in the community talking to people off hours, that's absolutely fine.
Well, what if they collaborated outside of school time to come up with that? I mean, is that still a violation just because they're getting paid with public dollars? That's what I'm trying to tease out here.
Yeah.
The differential. I value my input from my superintendents. That I defer to them a lot of times on education issues and like to hear from them, and I want to know their opinion. And I think they're employed by the taxpayers. Taxpayers need to kind of know where they stand on things. But
Yeah.
I look at it as a resource. As long as they're doing it, I think that's just going to be very hard. The enforceability of this, and now we're imposed. And I'm glad you took the felony out. I could not have supported that. But the criminal penalty, enhanced penalties, I just think it could have some arbitrary application and interfere with one's First Amendment rights. But thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Funky Fromeyer.
Thank you. Kind of on a similar line, I'm in Northern Kentucky, so I did experience some very interesting interactions in part of my Senate district. And it was definitely during work hours. Mm-hmm. It was a little astounding, some of the behavior of a couple superintendents. But what I'm interested in better understanding, who would actually bring this complaint? Would I have brought that complaint to my county attorney, or how would I have recognized a violation of this statute?
Yeah, that's correct. You just bring it up to prosecutor, and then it would be a judicial question, and the burden of proof and that sort of thing. And the fines actually aren't that much. It's a slap on the wrist, and I think it would be a high burden of proof, like I mentioned, to actually prosecute someone. I think it would be it would have to be absolutely obvious what they're doing.
And just to follow up, this of course then we wouldn't expect a constitutional challenge to this. We
No.
believe this is right in line with our First Amendment rights.
Yes. First Amendment rights are preserved, of course.
Mm-hmm. Looks good. Thank you.
Okay. Having cleared up the questions, we do have a motion and a second on the bill. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Chambers Armstrong. Senator Boswell. Senator Funky Fromeyer. Senator Givens. Senator Maiden. Senator Mace Bledsoe. Senator Neal.
I'd like to vote no on that. And Mr. Chairman, if I may.
You've cast, sir. Please explain.
Yeah, it seems to be a lot of gray area here, and it's speculative on when it would take place and when it won't connect in. I'm going to vote no at this time. I look forward to talking with you further about it, however, before it gets to the floor.
Senator Nunn. Senator Rawlings.
Aye.
Senator Richardson. Senator Webb.
I'm going to cast a no vote at this time. I appreciate the accommodations the sponsors previously made. I'm just going to have to give this some more thought before it reaches the floor, but vote no at this time.
Chair McDaniel.
Aye. There being 8 aye votes, no nay votes, the measure passes to the floor with favorable expression. Thanks, Senator. There were 8 ayes, 3 noes. I apologize if I didn't say that correct. All right. Okay. Next up, Senator Danny Carroll. Senator, first up, we've got Senate Bill 57. And there, once again, there is a committee. There is a committee substitute to this bill that's in everyone's packets. I will entertain a motion on Senate Committee Substitute 2. Motion from, was that Senator Nunn? Second, was that Senator Neal? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, like sign. The ayes have it. Senator, floor is yours. You guys would all identify yourself for the record and proceed.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Danny Carroll. I'm the state senator from the 2nd District, and I feel like I'm about to find out what speed dating is like.
Rodney Andrews, I'm the director of UK Center for Applied Energy Research, and I chair the state's Nuclear Energy Development Authority.
I'm Angie Hatton. I'm chair of the Kentucky Public Service Commission and also a member of Kentucky Nuclear Energy Development Authority Board.
Mr. Chairman, Senate Bill 57 is the next step into the development of a nuclear energy ecosystem within the Commonwealth. You all are familiar with the bills that we've had in the past, and I very proudly state that anywhere I travel throughout this country, attending nuclear conferences and even up into Canada, and I know my guests can back this up, they're talking about what's going on in Kentucky and the progress that we have made in this area. And we feel like we're at the forefront, especially of states that do not have current nuclear generation. And Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, that's what this bill is about, is to get Kentucky ready and lay a foundation for nuclear generation in the state. This bill basically creates a nuclear-ready site readiness pilot program under the Kentucky Nuclear Energy Development Authority. And the basic structure, it would fund 3 separate projects with up to $25 million state investment for each project. And the idea is that the $75 million is on average what an early site permit process would cost. So that's where we came up with that figure. But this would cover early site permitting progress, the process for that, and then also a license and permits up to construction to utilize that funding. And there are some safeguards within the language that would protect that $25 million investment. There would be a surety bond that would be required, and there are some specific dates where those thresholds must be met in the process to ensure that progress is being made and there is not a stagnant project that is underway. So we do protect ourselves with that. We do require the bond. And Mr. Chairman, there is also a provision that addresses cost recovery through the Public Service Commission, and this would be for the expense of energy generation that would be utilized by the grid. And I want to clarify with these projects, what we anticipate is that this would be very much a partnership where the state would put up this grant. There would be a request for proposals that would go out. A utility probably would be the one that would apply for the grant funding. They would be partnered with a developer, a nuclear reactor developer, and then also a hyperscaler, Google, Amazon, or any other type of industry. So it is very much a partnership through that. And should a project, let's say it's a hyperscaler, should the vast majority of the energy to be produced by that reactor be going to that entity, they would be responsible for the cost of building that facility for the most part. Any excess generation, in conversations with Public Service Commission, and Chair Haddon can add to that, in all likelihood they would not approve cost recovery for that amount. It would just be the amount that would go to ratepayers within that service area. So it's important to understand that. And it's also important to understand the dynamics of this after you get that original project completed. You have this partnership, there's shared costs, a great investment for the state. Our $75 million investment anticipates a $20 billion return. and we will establish these projects geographically suited throughout the state, so there is some separation so different regions can benefit from this, especially eastern Kentucky. And so you get the first projects done, you get a reactor on site, there's a hyperscaler that gets going. As the demand for energy increases within that service area, and this is the beauty of small modular reactors, a second, third, fourth reactor could be placed on that site. There would be savings in relation to licensure, permitting that has already been paid during the initial project. So that's how this is set up to work in the different regions, and it's a very efficient process. And this is a step that a lot of other states are following. We have also included the ability for these projects to receive tax breaks, and that's a new addition to the bill, and we feel like that will foster additional interest. I can say that I'm familiar already with 3 projects where partnerships are already being formed to apply for this funding.
And Senator, I'm going to stop you for a second because since the second half of this committee is the Danny Carroll show, I'm trying to give you 10
speed dating,
minutes
Mr. Chairman. I expected this.
Director Andrews, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
The only comment I'll make is last Friday we had the CNEDA board meeting and had 2 of the leading small modular reactor developers there, X Energy and Kairos Power, and they both very clearly stated that this program would put Kentucky in the queue of places they will consider for projects, which is a big step for us from going from a ban in 2017 till today.
Very well. Chair Hatton.
So the Public Service Commission was tasked by SJR 140 that came out of last year's session with exploring nuclear energy and getting ready to regulate it. We've done that. We've toured a number of nuclear facilities, and I've attended conferences, one in New York City and one in Washington, D.C., where I can confirm that Kentucky is being mentioned as a state where investment in nuclear energy production would be a good idea. And nuclear energy checks a lot of the boxes that we're looking for, as in reliable, dispatchable, green energy, but it is also very expensive. And so if we are serious about getting it into our state, I think a measure like Senate Bill 57 is a way to jumpstart that.
Mr. Chairman, I probably need to add that in addition to the $75 million for this project, I have proposed an additional $75 million that would go into the NEDA grant program, and we will have our first round of grants being announced in the next couple of weeks from that program. It is imperative that we step up and make a substantial investment in nuclear. You've got states like Texas that are 300 million plus. Tennessee is heavily investing. The states that are extending the life of reactors that have generation, they are investing. It's time for us to make a statement, and I cannot stress enough the impact that nuclear is going to have on our state in the future, bringing communities back to life, jobs, new careers for our kids, college programs. And it's going to be a game changer for our state. We've got to take advantage of it now, and we've got to remain that position of being at the forefront to ensure that the generations that follow get the advantage from this.
I have a motion from Senator Webb, second from Senator Richardson. I had one question in the queue from Senator Funky Fromeyer. If you'd proceed, ma'am.
Yes, thank you, all 3, and great to have expertise at the table relative to using the waste in Paducah to generate nuclear fuel. How is that maybe beneficial and maybe supportive of this $75 million investment?
So the waste that's at the Paducah gaseous diffusion plant, the technology that was used there is extremely inefficient. It was developed basically to support the Manhattan Project and early nuclear. And so the component that we use for reactor fuel, almost all of it is actually still in that waste. It's almost like a raw material, to be honest, because of how efficient it was. And so we've got two uranium fuel development companies who both located there, both moving into their startup phase. Both of them have gotten contracts for production of fuel. And so that is a separate part of the ecosystem. But when we're talking about small modular reactors, they're the people who are going to be producing fuel that will then go into these basically across the country.
Very well. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Chambers Armstrong. Senator Boswell. Senator Funky Fromeyer. Senator Givens. Senator Maiden.
I'd like to explain my vote. Mr.
Cast your vote and explain, sir.
I, for one, was like most people in the general
Cast your
public.
vote first, sir.
Oh, I'm an aye. Sorry. Was kind of skeptical about this, but I spent the summer going to several energy conventions, and that was one of the major topics. And I can remember coming back after the first one and sitting next to Senator Carroll at a meeting and said, "Hey, I'm amazed at how safe that really nuclear energy really is." So I think once you get past that, and being a cancer survivor, my radar was up really high. So I was just amazed at what I learned over the summer about nuclear. So I'm very much in support of moving this forward. Thank you.
Senator Mays Bledsoe. Senator Neal. Senator Nunn. Senator Rawlings.
Aye.
Senator Richardson. Senator Webb. Chair McDaniel.
And cast a vote and explain. I'm going to cast an aye vote, and I'm just, I'm baffled at the change that I've seen in my tenure in the General Assembly. When I got elected in 2012, I can remember before I was sworn in, going to O'Charley's in Campbell County, Senator Funky Fromeyer, with some folks from the energy companies. And the one thing I said was, we got to figure out how to do some nuclear work in this state. And they looked at me like, you have no idea how naive that statement is. And to watch your predecessor, in his exit in the 2014 session, and how unpleasant that was related to something that's not 100th of what we're doing now, and to have a Eastern Kentucky chair of the PSC in support of this, and Eastern Kentucky members of the General Assembly, I think, as industry looks at this, they should realize there's been a tremendous political shift related to this from one of opposition to support in a major way. And certainly we've taken some tremendous steps, and Director Andrews, you and the folks at CAER, we've kind of put you as the lead in a lot of that, and we appreciate everything that you're doing to thrust us further into the limelight on that. So with 11 aye votes, no nay votes, the measure passes with favorable expression. Thank you all very much. Thank you. All right. Senator Carroll, you can stay right there. I don't think you need to identify yourself again, but since you proved your chops on nuclear energy, how about you talk about juvenile justice? It's the logical extension, right? And we
Mr. Chairman,
do have a committee substitute
yes.
on this. Before you start, I'll entertain a motion on the sub. Senator Neal, second by Senator Mays Bledsoe. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Ayes have it.
Again, Mr. Chairman, Danny Carroll, the state senator from the 2nd District.
Randy White, Commissioner, Juvenile Justice.
Mr. Chairman, just a little bit of the background on this. Members are aware of all the crisis that we had within DJJ back in 2023. We came into the session and immediately established a working group to address the issues, and there were riots, there were issues with youth with severe mental health issues on how they were being served within juvenile detention centers. There was a young lady that was raped within one of the centers, and absolutely a true crisis. Through that session, we developed Senate Bill 162 that passed. That started the process of creating solutions for the issues and for the crisis that we were facing. The commissioner came in, made significant changes within DJJ. A lot of personnel moved out, a lot of structural issues, a lot of progress has been made. There is one final major component remaining, and that component is the issue dealing with acute mentally ill juveniles that are within this system, whether they be committed to DJJ or CHFS. And basically what this bill does, Mr. Chairman and members, it sets up a process for kids coming into the system on how they are evaluated and providing placement for them. It sets up a process with the court having final say. It allows those psychiatric hospitals and pediatric teaching hospitals the ability to remove juveniles who are violent and are assaulting staff. And I do want to stress, on the previous version of this bill, there was a section 26 that put that provision on hold until the mental health facility was built. That has been removed. There was a compromise reached whereby DJJ will be required to enter into a contract with these hospitals to serve those highest acuity kids within a juvenile detention center until a mental health facility is built for them. So that is a recent compromise to this. So, Mr. Chairman, that's as far as the structure that establishes that. It calls for the construction of acute mentally ill health care facility within DJJ. Our conversations have always been that facility would be located at Central State Hospital. And understand these would be the highest acuity kids in evaluation, and the kids that are at these hospitals that are the most violent, this is where those kids would go. And it would call for the construction of a minimum 24-bed facility, and again, establish the process whereby they would be replaced there.
And
so,
Senator, your speed dating timer just went off.
Okay, Mr.
I'm
Chairman.
going to throw it to the commissioner here, so he can have a little
I
time
don't
for
feel
his
like you
testimony.
know me very well yet, Senator McDaniel.
Commissioner.
Yes, sir. Thank you for being here. Again, we make a plea to request funding and progress and support to move forward with 2 juvenile facilities and a high acuity mental health facility. Obviously, we're intensely interested in trying to provide increased levels of care, focused care, specific care for those juveniles in our care that most needs mental health treatment. Often, juveniles in a detention center, the care that we want to provide to them, the focused mental health care, it's delayed because sometimes we're looking for beds within a private facility. Sometimes we have to request moving those juveniles outside of the state. At the same time, the staff members are not trained. They're not specialized to provide the level of care within a detention facility for those high acuity needs. In addition to that, those types of offenders require much more intense staff supervision and focus than the general population, which takes away from the general population. In addition to that, we request assistance for adding 2 additional juvenile female facilities within the state. We want to move back to a regional housing model as soon as practical, as stipulated in Senate Bill 162. And what we propose is locating a juvenile female facility in the central part of the state and one in the western part of the state, so that we can keep those female offenders closer to their homes and their families. In addition, we would focus female care and supervision in those types of facilities.
Very good, Commissioner.
Yes,
I'm going to cut you off there because Senator Webb has a question.
Yes, ma'am.
It's more a comment and a question. As part of the working group that Senator Carroll spoke of, and almost every task force and group in the last 25 years on juvenile justice, and as a practitioner, I know these kids you're talking about, and we have had struggle with placement, with private providers, with hospitals, with out-of-state placement, and there is a population here that we've got to deal with. And my question is, what's the potentiality of your negotiations? What's with the contract with the hospitals? Because it seems like when they take them, there comes a saturation point when they would send them back. So what's the status, the reality of that actually happening to the extent that we need it done?
You know, the person that most often works with the hospitals to try to get placement is our Chief of Mental Health, Dr. Clark Lester, and I can ask him to step up and to speak on that because he can give you the detailed accounts.
And we have addressed in the bill the process. So once this goes into effect, those juveniles, they will have the ability to move those juveniles out that are the most violent. And all these stories that you're hearing about riots and staff being assaulted, ending up in hospitals, this will address that on a short-term, hopefully a short-term time period where they would be at a detention center but receiving care from the same level of staff until we can get this facility
Well, I
built.
think that's important to know and
Yes.
everybody to understand the urgency of this, what we're dealing with.
Yes. And Doctor, I'm going to ask you to keep this answer brief. If you need a longer explanation to follow up with Senator Webb after would be great, and we're going to move on into a motion. If you identify yourself for the record first.
Dr. Clark Lester, and I think that I do have probably a longer answer, but the need is there, the volume is there, and this bill does lay out a process for us to collaborate with hospital systems in getting the appropriate level of care to the kids wherever they may be, either in the hospital or detention.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
But also, I'll add to that, Senator Webb, what we're talking about, often those most violent juveniles, when they go to the private hospital, they're dismissed from the hospital and sent back to our care. So that's what we're looking to retain. Yeah.
Senator Mays Bledsoe, second by Senator Richardson. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Chambers Armstrong. Senator Boswell.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to vote yes and explain my vote shortly.
Go ahead and explain, sir.
So I understand this. It sounds like a great project. I think it's needed. The one thing I will say going forward in the future as we have to decide how much money we're going to spend. I've seen some of these, and I just want to discourage us from doing a Taj Mahal. We all want a safe environment. We all want a place that meets all the standards, but just try to keep the controls on the cost.
Senator, we've tried to be fiscally responsible with this bill, and we have amended for a beginning. If we could get one of the female centers in Central Kentucky, that would be a huge step.
Thank you.
All right.
Senator Funky Fromeyer.
Aye.
Senator Givens. Senator Maiden. Senator Mays Bledsoe. Senator Neal. Senator Nunn. Senator Rawlings. Senator Richardson. Senator Webb. Chair McDaniel.
Cast my vote and explain. I'm going to cast an aye vote and explain. This is one of the hardest public policy issues I think that we've got, right? I mean, these kids are just different. They're a very small segment of the Commonwealth's population, but their ability to impact themselves and others is absolutely tremendous. And 99.99% of people get to ignore this issue because they're just never exposed to one of these young people. But the fact is, we're charged with the provision of justice. And that goes for that young person. That also goes for people who could potentially be victimized by that young person. And we don't get the luxury here of ignoring this. And it is a very expensive issue. And everybody here will say they're tired of me talking about, that this one will not be the world's easiest budget to write and that we can't do and we can't do and we can't do. But we can't, there's a point where some of our base obligations, like the provision of justice, we can't ignore. And so that's why we're here. Yeah. Commissioner, thank you. Senator, thank you. Doctor, thank you. We look forward to this advancing. Being 11 aye votes, no nay votes, the measure passes with favorable expression.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. Last one up on Senator Carroll's speed dating round. Since you've proven your chops at juvenile justice and nuclear, let's talk about child care. Senate Bill 191 does have a committee substitute. While your guests are coming up, I'll entertain a motion. Senator Maiden, second by Senator Mays Bledsoe. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, like sign. Ayes have it. Gentlemen, if you'd go ahead and identify yourselves for the record here, and then we'll let Senator Carroll take off with testimony.
Sure. Good morning. My name is Nick Pace. I serve as Dean of the UK College of Education.
Hello, I'm Colin Shepley. I'm the chair of the Interdisciplinary Early Childhood Education Program at the University of Kentucky and the faculty rector of the UK Early Childhood Lab, which functions as a Type 1 licensed child care center.
Very good. Senator Carroll, floor is yours.
Chairman Danny Carroll, State Senator from the 2nd District. This bill, Senate Bill 191, it relates to kindergarten readiness, and this is the Kentucky Kindergarten Readiness Performance-Based Child Care Incentive Pilot Program. And I know that's a long name, but we wanted to adequately describe what this does. This is set up to take place of the Kentucky All-Stars program that is currently in place within our child care facilities throughout the state. That program, although I was very proud as a CEO to be operating a 5-star program, however, that program is a once every 3-year assessment, and you are giving a star. There's a financial reward that comes with that. Other years, you simply send in paperwork. The quality does not always sustain. A lot of providers, many providers, do not like this program. It's costly to participate. There's a lot of materials. But I don't want to disparage that program at all. Again, I was very proud of it. This bill offers an alternative to that in an area that is very important to us as a state, and that's kindergarten readiness. And you've all heard all the bills that we've had that Senator Givens has stressed on performance-based funding in post-secondary. Well, this just takes that same concept and applies it to early childhood education, whereby these centers and in-home providers or low-income families would get a cash incentive or a refundable tax credit of $2,000 if their child enters kindergarten ready.
And that's the meat and potatoes of it.
It
We
is.
appreciate that. Gentlemen, we'd love to hear about 2 or 3 minutes of testimony from you, please.
Sure. I'll be very brief and let my colleague, Dr. Shepley, take the majority of my time. I will just say, as the Land Grant Institute or a Land Grant University for the Commonwealth, the College of Education is very happy to be involved in this pilot project. We're all about serving and supporting the Commonwealth, healthier, wealthier, wiser Kentuckians, and certainly early childhood care and education is vital to that picture. And we're happy to help convene practitioners, experts, researchers, kindergarten folks for the betterment of early childhood education in the state.
Very good. Dr. Shipley?
Thank you for this opportunity. I'm new at this, as you can tell. So I started out as a pre-K special education teacher, worked in public schools for 7 years before coming to UK to pursue my doctorate, and very fortunate to be able to stick around here as a faculty member. So I definitely understand what goes on day to day, minute to minute in childcare centers and educational, early childhood educational settings. And so with this bill, the focus is on kindergarten readiness, but there's also potential for spillover effects or residual impacts, if you will, on the recruitment and retention of our early care and education workforce. And this provides an avenue for it that is very much needed. And with it being a pilot program, and selfishly as a scientist, this is something, and I'm passionate about this field. I don't view this as let's show how this works. Let's figure out if this does actually work, what this would actually cost if it was to go to scale. And so I really appreciate that opportunity here before we just throw a bunch of resources at the wall here. Let's figure out what actually works, what doesn't work, and just kind of move forward from there. So thank you.
Very good. I have a motion by Senator Mays Bledsoe, a second by Senator Funky Fromeyer. Senator Givens, did you have a question or comment?
Just a brief compliment, if I could, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the opportunity. Senator Carroll, thanks for your work on this. Your passion in the child care space for years is something that all of us have marveled at, your continued desire to see good outcomes and good work. And when you think, and I'm encouraging my colleagues to vote for this, when you think about the pieces of this legislation, we've got a beautiful North Star, kindergarten readiness. That's a concrete measure we can measure. We as policymakers really like those concrete measures. So we've got a North Star to guide this work. And this is a North Star not chosen by us, but largely by this administration to say, this is what we want to measure. It's needs-based. When you look at the monies going directly to families, all families should hope to see their children. I fully believe all families do hope to see their children succeed, but we don't need to award monies to all families. I like the needs-based part of it. I'm thrilled with the research institution component. We're going to be doing something new. We have a benchmark already that we know. This proof of concept, as you indicated, with a quality research institution like this simply makes the bill that much better. And I think the thing that excites me the most is we're not saying this is the way to get a child ready for kindergarten. We're saying any way that gets a child ready for kindergarten deserves to be rewarded. So thank you for your leadership and your work, and I look forward to this moving on through the process. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Givens. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Chambers Armstrong. Senator Boswell. Senator Funky Frommeyer. Senator Givens. Senator Maiden.
Aye.
Senator Mays Bledsoe.
Vote and explain.
Briefly, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to compliment the bill sponsor. This went through Families and Children with favorable expression, had a lot of discussion about the child care space and about kindergarten readiness. I'm excited for UK to be partner with it on the pilot program. And I think we've talked about for the last couple of years having innovative programs and ideas in this space, and this is certainly that, and I'm excited about it. Thank you.
Senator Neal.
Briefly, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to acknowledge the dean's bow tie is very influential in my view. And the second thing is, I think this is a good start. This is worth trying. And but I do think that we need a larger and robust investment in early childhood because we have individuals out there that fall off. But this is a good start. Aye.
Senator Nunn. Senator Rawlings.
Aye.
Senator Richardson. Senator Webb. Chair McDaniel.
Aye. Being 11 aye votes, no nay votes, the measure passes with favorable expression. Gentlemen, thank you for your time today. Senator Carroll, thank you very much. Appreciate you.
I like speed dating, Mr. Chairman.
Very. Yep. Yes. We. All right.